dive into Black Trauma is Not Black Culture.
Yes, welcome back.
This is episode 3 of our special post-election series, and I think it's safe to say things are feeling pretty intense out there right now.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a charged atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're focusing on healing and support today.
Right.
Specifically when it comes to something called race battle fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling a lot of us are feeling it right now.
Yeah.
Maybe without even realizing what it is.
You're absolutely right. It can be insidious like that.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of exhaustion.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've been running a marathon you never signed up for.
Oh, wow.
And this marathon, it's about constantly dealing with microaggressions, discrimination, and the burden of educating others about racism.
Yeah, it's like always being on high alert, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, a marathon you never signed up for.
Exactly. It's a constant state of vigilance.
Right.
Bracing yourself for the next encounter, the next comment, the next news story that might trigger those feelings of anger, frustration, and exhaustion.
And with the election just behind us, I can only imagine those feelings are even more amplified.
Oh, for sure.
So how does this race battle fatigue actually show up? What are some of the signs that someone might be experiencing it?
It's not always obvious, you know, like
Right.
you have your classic fatigue, headaches, sleep disturbances, even changes in appetite.
Yeah.
But it can go deeper than that.
Okay.
It can affect your relationships,
Ah.
your work, your ability to just, enjoy life.
Right.
You might find yourself withdrawing from social situations,
Yeah.
avoiding conversations about race altogether because it's just too draining.
It's not just physical and emotional exhaustion, then it's also about how you interact with the world around you.
Exactly. And that's where it can get really tricky.
Okay.
Because these behavioral changes can be misinterpreted.
Right.
People might think you're just being distant or irritable, not realizing that it stems from this deep-seated fatigue.
That makes sense. And we have to remember that this fatigue isn't coming out of nowhere.
Right.
It's rooted in generations of systemic racism and oppression,
Yeah.
which leads to what some call soul wounds.
Ah, yes. Soul wounds. Those are deep, enduring scars left by the trauma of racism.
But how would you describe that?
Think of it like this. If physical wounds leave scars on your body,
Okay.
then the constant barrage of racism, discrimination, and microaggressions leave invisible scars on your psyche.
So it's not just about individual experiences.
No.
It's about the collective weight of historical and ongoing trauma.
Precisely. And for many, these soul wounds contribute to feelings of internalized anti-Blackness,
Wow.
making it even harder to recognize and address the impact of race battle fatigue.
It's like a vicious cycle then, isn't it?
It is.
The trauma leads to fatigue, which is then compounded by internalized messages that make it harder to heal.
It's a complex issue for sure.
Yeah.
But the important thing to remember is that there is hope.
Okay.
There are ways to break the cycle and begin to heal.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What are some strategies that people can use to cope with race battle fatigue
Okay.
and start on that path to healing?
Well, first and foremost, it's about recognizing that you have agency.
Okay.
You have the power to choose how you respond to these challenges, even if you can't control the challenges themselves.
I love that it's about reclaiming your power in a situation that can often feel so disempowering.
Right.
So what are some practical ways to actually do that?
One of the most powerful tools is self-care.
Okay.
It's about prioritizing your well-being, making sure you're getting enough rest, eating nourishing food,
Yeah.
and moving your body in ways that feel good.
It sounds simple enough, but I know it can be so easy to neglect those basic needs when you're feeling completely overwhelmed.
It's true, which is why it's also important to find ways to regulate your nervous system and reduce stress.
Okay.
Things like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, even spending time in nature can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, it's about creating moments of calm amidst the chaos.
Exactly, and you don't have to do it alone.
That's right.
Connecting with supportive people who understand your experiences can be a lifeline,
Yeah.
whether it's family, friends, or community groups.
Right.
Having that sense of belonging and shared understanding can make a world of difference.
Speaking of community, I'm curious about the idea of drawing on ancient wisdom and spiritual traditions for healing.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
For generations, Black people have turned to ancestral practices and traditions as sources of strength and resilience. Think about the power of Kemetic yoga,
Yeah.
breath work rooted in ancient Egyptian traditions, or connecting with water spirits like Mami Wata.
Really?
These practices offer a way to connect with a deeper sense of self and tap into the wisdom of our ancestors.
It's about finding strength and healing in the practices that have sustained us for centuries.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
It is, and it's a reminder that we're not alone in this struggle. We're part of a lineage of resilience, and those traditions offer a roadmap for navigating the challenges we face today.
I've been thinking about this election with all the tension and uncertainty, and how that might be adding another layer to this race battle fatigue we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's a really important point. The political climate, especially in recent years, has been incredibly stressful for many, particularly for Black communities.
Yeah, it feels like the stakes are just even higher now.
Absolutely. And we're not just talking about, policy debates or election results. We're talking about a resurgence of openly racist rhetoric, a normalization of hate speech that can be incredibly triggering and exhausting to confront.
And for those who've experienced violence or discrimination firsthand, or whose families have, this political climate can bring up so much fear and anxiety.
Absolutely. You're right. It can feel like a constant threat.
Yeah.
A reminder of the historical and ongoing injustices that Black people have faced in this country.
So in this kind of environment, how do we even begin to talk about healing? It feels almost impossible when you're constantly being bombarded with messages that make you feel unsafe and devalued.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's in these moments when things feel the most difficult that it's even more crucial to prioritize our well-being and find ways to resist internalizing those negative messages.
So we're going back to those coping strategies we talked about earlier: self-care, community, spirituality, creative expression.
Exactly. These practices become even more essential when the external environment feels toxic. It's about creating a sanctuary for ourselves, a space where we can replenish our energy and nurture our spirits.
Yeah, it's like building a shield against the negativity.
Yeah.
A way to protect our mental and emotional health.
That's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to these challenges, even when it feels like the world is trying to break us down.
It's about reclaiming our joy, our resilience, our inherent worth.
Exactly. And it's about finding ways to channel that energy into positive action.
Okay.
Maybe it's getting involved in community organizing, supporting Black-owned businesses, or creating art that speaks to your experiences.
It's about turning that pain and frustration into something powerful.
Yeah.
Something transformative.
Absolutely. And it's about remembering that we're not alone in this fight.
Right.
We have a long legacy of resistance and resilience to draw upon, and there are countless individuals and organizations working to create a more just and equitable world.
We've talked about the collective experience of race battle fatigue, but I also want to think for a minute about the unique challenges faced by Black men in particular. There's often this expectation that they have to be strong and stoic, which can make it even harder to talk about any mental health struggles.
You've hit on a critical issue. The stigma surrounding mental health in the Black community, particularly for men, is a huge barrier to seeking help. Like there's this unspoken rule that you have to just deal with it on your own.
Which can lead to isolation and even more suffering.
So it's about challenging those harmful stereotypes about masculinity.
Exactly.
Those ideas that equate strength with silence.
True strength lies in being able to acknowledge your struggles and ask for help when you need it.
And that goes back to the importance of community, of having that support system that can provide a listening ear.
Yes.
And a safe space to process these difficult emotions.
Absolutely. We all need people we can lean on. People who understand what we're going through and can offer encouragement and guidance.
And we need to make sure that mental health resources are accessible and culturally competent. We can't just expect people to open up if they don't feel like their experiences are being validated and respected.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but let's shift gears a little bit and focus on solutions.
Okay.
What are some concrete things that we as individuals and as a community can do to address this issue?
First and foremost, we need to start talking about mental health openly and honestly.
Okay.
We need to normalize the conversation, break down the stigma, and create a culture where seeking help is seen as a sign of strength, not weakness.
It's about shifting that narrative, challenging those old beliefs that tell us to just keep our emotions bottled up.
Exactly. This means supporting organizations that provide culturally competent mental health services, advocating for policies that address the systemic barriers to care, and creating mentorship programs that connect young Black men with positive role models.
It's about building a network of support,
Yes.
A safety net that catches them when they fall. Yes.
Breaking down those barriers and paving the way for others to do the same.
Those stories are so powerful. Help.
Exactly. They're reminders that we're not alone in this and that there's hope for healing and recovery. It's about shifting the narrative from one of deficit to one of abundance, from focusing on what's wrong to celebrating all that is right.
And it's about believing in potential. The power to heal, to grow, to thrive.
It's about affirming worth, their dignity, their humanity.
Speaking of affirming our worth, I want to circle back to this concept of reclaiming our joy.
Yes.
It's easy to get caught up in all the negativity, the trauma, the challenges.
Right.
But it's so important to remember that joy is a form of resistance.
That's such a powerful statement. Joy is an act of defiance in the face of oppression.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we are more than our pain, that we are worthy of happiness and fulfillment.
And it's something that we can actively cultivate even in the midst of difficult times.
Absolutely. It's about finding those moments of light, those sparks of joy that remind us of our own strength and resilience.
Maybe it's spending time with loved ones, listening to music that moves you, or connecting with nature.
Or maybe it's creating something beautiful,
Right.
engaging in an act of service, or simply taking a moment to appreciate the simple things in life.
Yeah, it's about finding those things that make your heart sing,
Yep.
that remind you of who you are at your core.
And it's about sharing that joy with others,
Yeah.
spreading that light and creating a ripple effect of positivity.
Because joy is contagious,
It is.
and it has the power to heal, to uplift, to transform. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like we're talking about reclaiming our power on multiple levels here.
Yeah.
It's not just about individual healing, it's about collective action and systemic change.
You're absolutely right. We can't talk about healing from race battle fatigue without addressing the systems that create and perpetuate it.
So what does that look like? What are some ways to challenge those systems and create a more just and equitable world?
Oh, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
We need to educate ourselves and others about the realities of racism, discrimination, and the ways in which they impact our lives.
That education can't just be about facts and figures.
Right.
It has to be about empathy, about understanding the lived experiences of those who are most affected.
Exactly. Amplifying their stories, challenging our own biases, and working to dismantle the systems that perpetuate injustice.
So it's about individual action, but also about collective organizing, about coming together to demand change.
Precisely.
Right.
It's about supporting organizations that are working to dismantle systemic racism. It's about using our voices to speak out against injustice wherever we see it.
It's about realizing that we all have a role to play in creating a better world, a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And it's about believing that change is possible.
Yeah.
It's about holding on to hope even when things feel bleak, because throughout history, Black people have always found ways to resist, to persevere, to create beauty and joy in the face of adversity.
And that's what this series is all about, right?
Yeah.
Reminding ourselves that Black trauma is not Black culture. It's about celebrating the resilience, the creativity, the joy that define us as a people.
Absolutely. It's about shifting the narrative, reclaiming our power, and creating a future where Black joy is centered, where Black voices are heard, and where Black lives truly matter.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into race battle fatigue, I want to leave our listeners with a call to action.
Okay.
What is one specific thing that they can do this week to prioritize their well-being and contribute to the collective healing of our community?
It can be anything big or small. Maybe it's taking some time for yourself to rest and recharge.
Okay.
Maybe it's reaching out to a friend or family member and offering a listening ear. Maybe it's donating to an organization that supports Black mental health.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's simply taking a moment to appreciate the beauty and resilience of Black culture.
The important thing is to take action, to make a conscious choice, to prioritize your well-being and contribute to the collective healing of our community.
And remember, you are not alone in this journey.
That's right.
There are resources available, there are people who care, and there is always hope for a brighter future.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this conversation has provided some insights and inspiration